Write down all of the big Mass Effect 5 questions in your head, one by one. Is Shepard definitely coming back? Yes, I think so. But how will that happen? What exactly was Liara looking for on that snowy ridge? And when she finds Shepard, what condition will that legendary commander be in? And most importantly, what is the actual main story of this game going to be? Today, we are pulling all of those answers together into one single theory. Not some weak, maybe Shepard comes back idea either. I'm going to lay out the full framework that makes all of it click. From what Liara found under that ice, to why Shepard may end up trapped in a half-cyborg body, to the massive gap in their memory, all the way to the Andromeda connection. So, if you have been asking, how is BioWare even going to pull this off? This is the theory that solves that impossible equation. So sit back, and let's begin. When people talk about Mass Effect 5, the thing most of them get stuck on is obvious. Is Shepard coming back or not? Would BioWare do that or not? But honestly, I do not think that is the real question anymore. In my mind, the real question is this. If Shepard is coming back, how are they going to do it? And even more importantly, how are they going to make that return fit naturally into the story? Because if you just suddenly go, oh look, Shepard is back, it does not work. But if they build it the right way, it could become something huge. Now my theory is very clear. I do not think Liara is looking for Shepard in that snowy place in the teaser. That part is very important. I do not think she is going there with a direct, I am searching for Shepard mindset. I think she is after something else, something bigger. A secret that could affect the galaxy. A trace left over from the old war, buried post-Reaper technology, maybe a forbidden data network left behind by Cerberus. In other words, Liara's goal at first may not be emotional at all. It may be completely tied to the bigger picture. But this is exactly where things get interesting. Because while Liara is chasing that huge secret, she may end up finding something completely different. You know how sometimes you go looking for one thing, but what really shakes you is something else entirely? That is exactly what I mean. Beneath that ice, in that deathly silence, on that war-scarred world, what Liara finds may not be technology, data, or a map. It might be Shepard. And in my theory, Shepard is not dead, but not exactly alive either. More like stuck in between. Preserved in the ice, body heavily damaged, almost gone, but not completely lost. So this is not some coffin-like discovery. What Liara comes face to face with could be a Shepard who is still salvageable, but already too broken to be brought back through normal means. And honestly, if BioWare is going to do this, I think this would be the smartest way. Because bringing Shepard back completely healthy and perfectly intact would feel cheap. It would lose all weight. But a Shepard who still carries the cost of the war in their body, badly wounded, frozen for years, that would make the return feel much more powerful. Because it would not destroy the character's legend, while also giving the return a real cost. Now this is where the most critical part begins. Shepard is rescued, but they cannot be saved in a fully biological state. In other words, parts of the body may have already failed beyond repair. Organs, the nervous system, maybe one of the limbs, maybe a major portion of the internal structure could be seriously ruined. So, in order to keep Shepard alive, some kind of advanced synthetic support may be necessary. And in my theory, this becomes one of the biggest defining differences of Mass Effect 5. Shepard comes back, but comes back changed. But pay attention to one thing here. When I say half-cybernetic Shepard, I am not talking about some emotionless robot Shepard. That is not what I mean at all. I am still talking about someone with the same instincts, the same anger, the same soul inside them. It is just that their body is no longer the same body. Maybe one arm is synthetic, maybe some organs are being kept alive through artificial systems, maybe part of the body is literally being sustained by technology. But the person inside is still Shepard. And I think that idea is incredibly strong. Because you are not turning the character into a machine, you are turning them into a living mark of the war. Just imagine it. That legendary commander who saved the galaxy comes back, but now the permanent scars of the war are written across their body. A Shepard like that would feel heavier, more charismatic, and much more fitting for the tone of the new game. But honestly, I do not think the most powerful part of this is the physical transformation. I think the real bombshell could be the memory side of it. Because in my theory, when Shepard comes back, they do not remember everything. In fact, maybe at first they do not clearly remember anything at all. Some faces feel familiar, some voices stir something inside them, some symbols hit them with an emotional weight they cannot explain. So Shepard may return physically, but mentally they come back fragmented. And that is where the story could go somewhere much more interesting. Because then this is no longer just, the galaxy is in danger again, let's go save it. It becomes a story about Shepard rediscovering who they are. The player pieces the past back together along with Shepard. Every mission triggers a memory. Every encounter puts another piece into place. Every old name opens another locked door in Shepard's mind. Just imagine it. Shepard sees an N7 emblem somewhere and feels something incredibly strange inside, but does not know why. Liara looks at Shepard and gets emotional, but Shepard is left only with that feeling of, I feel like I'm supposed to know you. Maybe Shepard walks onto an old battlefield and shattered images start flashing through their mind. Maybe someone says Garrus's name, and Shepard feels an emptiness they cannot explain. A memory recovery structure like that could, in theory, take the game to a much more emotional place. And that is exactly why Liara's role could be absolutely massive in this game. Because she would not just be the person who finds Shepard, she would also be the person who truly brings Shepard back. The one who pulls them out from under the ice, keeps them alive, reconnects them to their past, and gets them to this point because she never stopped believing in them. In other words, Liara would not just be a supporting character here. She could become one of the central pillars of the story. And they could write that relationship incredibly well. Because Liara believes in Shepard, but Shepard does not believe in himself. That is a great conflict. Liara feels that the person in front of her is Shepard. But inside their own mind, Shepard is wandering around asking, am I really that person, or am I just a broken remnant of them? That alone could become one of the best emotional veins of the entire game. In fact, imagine a scene like this. Shepard turns to Liara and says, what if the person you saved isn't me? That one line alone could summarize the tone of the whole game. Because this is not just about bringing a hero back. It is about questioning whether the person who came back is truly the same person at all. And in a series like Mass Effect, built so heavily around choice, identity, and connection, it is hard to imagine a stronger theme than that. So while all of this is happening, what is the external story going to be? I think this is where the something else Liara was originally searching for comes back into play. In other words, there may be a massive threat or buried technology from after the Reaper War that is now beginning to rise again. And this thing could be big enough to affect not just the Milky Way, but the Andromeda connection as well. That way, the game does not forget the original trilogy, while still opening the door to the new era. And this is exactly where Shepard's return stops being simple fan service. Because Shepard could become critically important to solving that larger mystery. Maybe they touched something related to it in the past. Maybe one of the last missions they no longer remember contains the key to the current disaster. Maybe that is why they were preserved, why they did not fully vanish, why they remained protected under the ice, so Shepard would not just come back. They would come back as part of the main secret itself. And honestly, I think this is how they connect Andromeda too. Old players stay emotionally connected through Shepard and Liara, while people who like the new direction get pulled in through a larger galactic framework. Because let's be real, BioWare cannot just lean entirely on nostalgia, but they also cannot erase the old trilogy and suddenly say, okay, now we are fully moving over to Andromeda. The smartest path is to use strong characters who can connect both sides, and Liara and Shepard are perfect for that. And the half-cybernetic Shepard idea also works symbolically here, because Shepard becomes, in a way, the fusion of two eras. They are the last living legacy of the old war. But they are also someone being kept alive through the technology of the new age. So Shepard does not just become a returning hero. They become the living symbol of Mass Effect's transitional era. I also think the middle section of the game could work really well this way. At first, Shepard may feel lost, fragmented, uncertain. Then, as the missions continue, the memories begin to return. First, small things. Then, important faces. Then, the war. And then, the most critical truth of all. Why Shepard was specifically preserved, why they are still alive, and why they are directly connected to this new threat could all slowly unfold. And that is the moment when Shepard stops being just a survivor, and once again becomes the central player in the story. And I think they could land on something incredibly powerful in the ending too. Because by the end of the game, Shepard would not just be standing again physically. They would also have regained their identity. But this would not be the exact same Shepard from before. It would be a version that is more broken, heavier, quieter, but maybe much more dangerous. You know how some characters go through things that do not make them smaller, but actually make them feel bigger? That is exactly the energy. I mean, that is why I truly believe this. The real story of Mass Effect 5 may not be, will Shepard come back? The real story may be what Liara was chasing, what she found under the ice, and who the returning Shepard really is. And if BioWare writes that well, this would not just be a comeback story. It would become the rebirth story of a legend who lost their identity. I believe that what Liara found under that ice was not just a hero, but also a massive past that still needs to be remembered. So, what do you think? Let's tear this theory apart together in the comments, or make it even stronger. I am genuinely curious about every single one of your ideas. If you like this theory, you can support me by leaving a like. And if you have not joined the family yet, do not forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.